morning, everyone. Welcome to the UCAT course. My name is Abdul Mannan, and my co-host Imran Khan. Both of us will be hosting today's event. Hope you enjoy the event. How are you guys doing? You okay? You can chat with us. I'm going to be following the chat or the Q&A box. So yeah, talk to me. Tell me how you are. So we will make this an interactive session. Looks like we've got quite there you go. Morning, Kasim. Hi, Joyce. Yeah, there you go. Everybody's talking to me. That's good. I like it when people talk to me. That's nice. Good, good. Excellent. Morning. Welcome to the course. Hope we'll have a great course today. Excited? Yep. So my answer. Yep. Morning, Sprata, Hafsa. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Okay. Excellent. So we're here then. That's great. So it looks like there's audience is growing. We've got about 79 of us here, and it's growing every time. Yep. 80 of us. So yeah, there's people logging on. So let's begin. Okay. Let's stick to time. We've only got an hour, so I want to squeeze in as much as I can today. All right, and I hope you benefit from this course as much as I seem to do every time I do it. So welcome, folks. Tell me where you're from. Whereabouts are you logging in from? Are you from the UK? Are you from Australia, New Zealand? Where is it you're logging in from? UK, Afsa's from UK. Lots of people here from the UK.
Greece.
Yeah, Manchester, Liverpool. Okay, lots of UK folks. Yeah. Okay. Good, excellent, excellent. We've got some folks joining in from Australia and New Zealand, haven't we, Imran?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Perhaps there'll be some on the later course as well, I guess. Yeah, good. Well, you're all welcome, wherever you're from. Hope you've been enjoying your weekend as much as I have been. It's been great weather, hasn't it, lately? So, yeah. So before the sun comes up here, it's still a bit cold, so let's get this done so we can enjoy the day, yeah? Good. Excellent. So let's talk about UCAT, guys. We want to kind of get a good snapshot understanding of UCAT so that we can do well this year and we can get into university. Let me ask you the first question. Why is it important, folks, to sit the UCAT? Why is it important to do well in the UCAT, shall I say? A better question. What do you think? What should the answers be here? What are your thoughts? Unis look at it. True, Nicola. Yeah, yeah. Most medical school require it. Some of you, yeah, absolutely correct. A lot of medicals, yeah. The testings that aren't at school, yeah, absolutely correct. Yeah. Meet the university's cutoff. Shows dedicated and aptitude. Used to score applicants, yeah. Requirement for medical school. Better chance, yeah, absolutely correct. Demonstrating key skills, Abigail, absolutely correct. You're absolutely right, Frida. Better chance of getting to medical school with high UCAT. You're absolutely right. So here you go. That's my first. I'll bring up the first slide. That's if I can. I don't. Imran's a technophile here. I'm a bit slow with these things, but there you go. So guys, it's important. It's important that we have the correct attitude for UCAT because, as you all rightly allude to, you're all very intelligent people, okay, extremely clever people. Whether you're going to medical school, whether you're going to dental school, most dentists, they require UCAT as well. Most of you are very clever people. I'm sure you're all aiming for A grades, if not higher. And the fact is, most of you will get those grades. So as far as grades are concerned, it's pretty level playing field when it comes to applicants. You're clever people, you're ambitious people. They know that most people will get high grades. So, how do you differentiate, you guys? How do you, of the 90% of you who'll get these top grades, how do we kind of stratify? How do we kind of, zone in and find the right people? So whether we like it or not, and UCAT does have its criticisms, and its limitations, I must say, but it's one of those discriminators. It's one of those tools that institutions can use to try and find the right candidates. And we can argue about, is it the right test and so forth, but that's where we are. We all have to think about doing the UCAT for those very reasons, because most, as you say, most UK medical schools and dental schools, for that matter, want UCAT. It's also required by the gateway courses, foundation entry. Anybody doing foundation entry potentially? Anybody considering doing it? Foundation to medicine courses, possibly. Nicola might be doing it. Huda is going to, yeah. So a few of you, I'm sure, will consider foundation courses. Any graduate entry in the UK? Anybody who are considering the graduate entry course? No, maybe the graduates haven't woken up yet. No, there's always, the GEM courses, Imran, as you know, are, asking for UCAT more and more as well, Of course, is there anybody who might fall into the widening participation category? Does anybody know? Have you looked into that? Yeah, Hafsa, yeah. I'm sure Alina, yeah, Ansa, Sarah. Yeah, so you can see that, so quite a few of you are saying you might. So it's very, very important, because actually you may get, in terms of when they stratify, when they look at the different centiles, you could potentially get lifted from with a widening participation background. So yeah, great. But what we still want to do is make sure we get the best possible score for that very reason. Okay, let me ask you another question then. You said in terms of, I mentioned uplift and, widening participation we alluded to. What scores do you need? What scores do we need to aim for in these tests? Do you know? Have you done some reading about it? Sanjana, I do. What do you mean you do? What score do you need? Tell me then. What do you think? Band 102 for SJT, I suppose. That's what you mean. 700 average, 650, 260, not sure though. 600. So can you see there's quite a variation of what people are thinking. Some of you are thinking 2,800 plus. Some people are saying 2,500. So yeah, let's get some understanding about it really. What kind of scores we need. It's important to aim at scores, because this is the very reason. I'll try and change my slide. There you go, it's working now. So we've done a lot of freedom of information, information fact find with universities. A lot of universities actually publish the information in terms of the kind of candidates they will interview. Some universities will actually look at. So, if who came to our last course, by the way, getting to medicine. Yeah, Alexi, yeah, Bushra, quite a few of you have. So great, fantastic. Those of you who did come to the last course, welcome back. So you might remember some universities actually said to you, was it 10, 12 universities, Imran, that attended the course? And they presented to you about their entry criteria and what they look out for. So, some of them actually mentioned that they use it as a, criteria. They look at your scores from the outset before they'll even interview you. So I remember clearly Edinburgh said, for example, if you've got situational judgment score that falls into band 4, they don't even interview, you see. So people do use the UCAT as a discriminator for even interview, all right? Others don't. And it's important we know which university does and which don't. You need to do that homework in advance. But it's, the wider evidence is that if you're in that top 50% of scores that year, your chances of getting through to the university is a lot better. There's just no doubt about it, okay? That midline from last year's figures, it's about 2,580. Now, over the years, that's probably gone down by 50 points. It's probably gone up by another 50 points. But we generally find, don't we, Imran, that it doesn't really vary much beyond that midline, doesn't it? Certainly, if you're below that number, then you might get interview. I'm not saying you won't get interviews, especially if you fall into widening participation groups. You know, you probably will get interviews, but you know, it's important not to play on that line. Really, you need to aim higher than that. You know, a bit like, I guess, your A-level grades. You know, if I said to you, the university, you know, require 3 A's, are you really going to aim for 3 A's? What do you think? Would you do that? What would your strategy be? You know, well, you'd aim higher, wouldn't you? You're absolutely correct, Ali Dan. You would do. You'd aim higher. You'd probably try and aim for at least a couple of A stars in those subjects, if not all 3, so that if you don't hit the A's, it's great if you get your 3 A stars, but if you don't, you know that there's a bit of a fallback. So that's a strategy. You guys know what to do. So, you know, I do feel baffled sometimes when, well, not sometimes, I come across loads of students, hundreds of students every year in our courses. And I don't understand why, you know, some of us, we don't have a revision plan. We don't, you know, we try and cram it in the last 2-3 weeks. We try to, you know, chance it. And I say, don't do that. You know, you need to be academic about the UCAT. It's not an easy test, if you ask me. You know, I've been doing this for many years. It requires skill, it requires strategy, it's fast-paced, and it's important to give it the due, you know, respect that it deserves. So yeah, that's the midpoint that, you know, like some of you said, I would aim for 2,800 to be safe, on the safe side, a bit like aiming for the A star. Okay, as I said to you before, Band 4, we've had universities openly saying on this course last week and before, you know, we know for sure this is public information, you know, that people won't interview you. So it's important to do well, even in sections like situational judgment, which, you know, some people seem to think it doesn't matter what I do in that section, or it might not, it probably won't be counted. But it's not the case anymore. You know, people are using UCAT a lot more as a discriminating tool. You know, so yeah, again, the other thing Imran's put on the slide is the Bmat point, in that the correlation we find, statistical evidence we have, is that actually you can't say you'll do really well in your Bmats. You know, those of you that will do Bmats as well. I don't know if you know, guys, this year's sitting in September has been cancelled, by the way, Bmat. It's been moved on to November, so bear that in mind as well. That's just a bit of information hot off the press. Did you know that? Is there anybody who is going to sit the Bmat test? I mean, we're not going to focus on Bmat today, but yeah, Jude, yeah, quite a few of you, Abigail, Sharon, yeah, Sanjana, considering it, yeah. Yeah, for those of you who are, you know, considering it, don't let it limit your choice of university, guys. Don't let it limit. If you want to go to a Bmat university, then, you know, don't just kind of get rid of the Bmat list just because you think, oh, it's another test. Trust me, if you prepare for UCAT well, you'll certainly be well positioned for section 1 of Bmat. I'm just going to be very brief about this, okay? For those of you who haven't perhaps familiarized yourself with Bmat, it's 3 sections. You know, first section is, I would say, very similar to, if you've revised well for UCAT, you'll do well to get, you know, do well in section 1. Section 2, you've got the science type questions, which I find if you revise well from, you know, GCSE level science and maths questions. In fact, a lot of my students tend to tell them about the CGP books. Have you heard about CGP books? Revision books? I'm sure some of you have used them. Yeah, exactly. Stick to them. I find they're very good. Past papers as well. Past papers I find are very useful. That's good enough, you know. And then, of course, section 3 is essay skills, writing skills, you know, which tend to be science and non-science subjects. So just, you know, as long as you're good at writing essays and so forth, I think you can have a good stab at section 3. That's briefly Bmat.
Abdul, I've just got a message here from Sophia saying, is it worth doing both Bmat and UCAT?
Well, like I said to you, Sophia, I think personally, if you are serious about going to a BMAT university, I'll give you an example. I had a student last year, and she is from up north. She wanted to apply to Manchester and Liverpool, who are, as you know, UCAT universities. And at the same time, Imran, she was also wanting to apply to Lancaster and Leeds, right? As potential, because it was important for her to stay on that M62 corridor for transport issues and being not too far from home and so on and such forth. These are things that are important to a lot of people. So you have to be quite logical about your approach. And my answer was, yeah, don't limit yourself to just the UCAT universities just because you can actually do BMAT. It's not a problem. You can do. You guys are clever people. It's an extra test, I know, but it's just a matter of preparing for it, incorporating that into your revision plans and your strategy. So don't, limit yourself. Do it if you want to. Okay. Does that answer your question, Sophie? So I kind of mentioned it before, I guess. So it's a bit of a deep dive. How do universities use UCAT? Do you guys know? Have you done some reading on their prospectuses, their websites? Because they do. Quite a few universities bring it up and talk about it, don't they, Imran? Have you been to any of their remote open days? Does anybody know? I'll use it alongside. They do, Cecile, alongside your GCSEs. Some use it for interview selection. You're absolutely right, Alina. Yeah. If you came to our course last week, you'd have heard from some of the universities. Yeah. Some have a cutoff score. Exactly. Absolutely correct. Yeah. So really, the next slide, what I'm about to show you, will be no different, really. It won't be too different to what, to what I'm about to tell you. Some people, some universities do use your scores to rank and to decide if you come in for interview. All right. They do talk about, using the score as a holistic thing, but it very much used as a tool to decide who they might contact and who they might not. To distinguish between two students, I've kind of mentioned that in the last point here, Abigail, as a kind of tiebreaker type thing, because you do, once you've kind of selected your definite students, you come to, I've been involved in this before in my days when I used to be involved with university selections, and it gets to a point where you're looking at students and think, okay, is it this candidate or that candidate, so they do look at it that way as well. Newer medical schools. Now, this is an important point because some people do, like, if you get lower scores, you look for medical schools that, perhaps interview lower score students. But what we find, the trend is that they also have high numbers of applications. People, look, say, newer medical schools and they think, okay, I've got a better chance there. But actually, they're actually very popular. As you know, medicine, certainly dentistry as well, both subjects, they're oversubscribed. This year, the applications went up 20% more than previous years, probably because of students from last year who didn't get in are also applying. But this is going to continue. The evidence is over the last, I'd say about 20 odd years, the number of applicants have constantly gone up. I don't remember, Imran, in the last 15 years of looking into this in a serious way, that the numbers have ever gone down. Do you? I don't. So that has always been the case. It's a competitive application process.
If anything, Abdul, it's going to get more competitive as time goes on. I think last year there was a 25% increase in applications to medicine. So you have to find some way of differentiating between you. You all have excellent grades. You all have minimum entry requirements. They have to find some way. They can't possibly interview the 4,000, 5,000 applicants to each medical school. So they have to narrow down somehow. And UCAT is one of the ways that they do it.
Yeah, absolutely correct. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, guys. So what about, because I mentioned revision earlier on, having a strategy, revising, giving it time, so besides that, what other things, would you consider when it comes to revision? What kind of, if you was to give me tips on preparing for UCAT, what would you advise me to do? Yeah. What are your thoughts? Have you thought about revising, or is it too soon? Practice, focused on harder parts, practice questions, start early, past papers, practice. Yeah, yeah, but not too early burnout. Yes, good point. Prepare 4 to 6 weeks. Yeah, okay. Good, excellent. So you're all coming up with really, really good advice, really. So thank you for giving me all this advice. And I agree with you. I agree with you. So these are the tips I've put down in that, you need to familiarize yourself with question styles, used in UCAT and developing strategies. So, those of you who said you need to start early, 4 to 6 weeks, I would implore that you think about a good 10-week strategy, all right? So that you can, and you can kind of download that revision planner. It's on our website, I think. Is it, Imran? The revision plan?
The revision planner at some point, yes.
Yeah, so it's just a PDF. You can download it and use that as a template. Whether you do a 10-week program or an 8-week program, you can adapt it really. So by all means, download that and use it for your benefit. So the reason I say a good 10-week program is so you can kind of start, light, perhaps an hour a day or something like that, and gradually build up to say a couple of hours a day, something like that towards the last few weeks. And also a 10-week program will allow you to do the other thing, which I feel is important, and that is revise from about 3 different sources. Okay, so could you send the link to the program in the chat? Could do, perhaps. I'll see if Imran is able to do that. Alexia, of course we can.
Yeah, at the end of the course, we will send an email to everyone with resources that you can download.
And there's also, by the way, on the website, there's blogs as well, quite a few of them that I've done and Imran's done as well. So what I mean about the 3 different programs, Hafsa, is that 3 different sources of revision, okay, so that you get a good feel for the kind of question banks that are out there. So I know, for example, when people come to our courses, Imran gives them access to our question bank, which is, I don't know, it's probably about 1,500 questions or something. Our questions, I think, in general, are harder than some of the others out there. Some of the others out there are, I would say, slightly better for situational judgment, for example. Other sources might be better for quantitative reasoning, and so on and such forth. So I think to get a good holistic view of questions, I would look at 3 different sources. So you might do, you can use the, I won't show any, I've just got a few books here, but I'm not going to show you any because of, for obvious reasons, as that not to push any particular provider, but, certainly look at an online source, okay, like on an online question bank, because that gives you the kind of online experience, because this is going to be an online test, isn't it? You can also have, say, there's loads of books out there, get 1 or 2 books and go through them. But don't stick to just the one set of books, one set of publishers, I think. Mix it up a bit. And that's what I mean by having different programs, really. So perhaps, 3 weeks with one set, 3 weeks with another, and 3 weeks with another set, something like that. Okay. Look at group. Sorry, Imran.
Sorry, the Blue Peanut courses have 1 set. The official UCAT consortium on their website will have a 2nd set. And then the 3rd set, we leave to your discretion. But whatever you do, just make sure that it's an up-to-date, if it's a book you use, it's up to date. There's some books going back several years that have sections of the UCAT that aren't used anymore. Make sure whatever you use is up to date, because we have had reports, especially with situational judgment, that they can give a false sense of security. So you can do very, very well, from the book, but when you come to your real exam, you don't do as well. So make sure the source is up to date and appropriate.
Absolutely correct, Imran. Brilliant. So guys, 1 or 2 other things. By all means, visit the UCAT site. Is it worth getting the Kaplan UCAT? It's a reputable source, Dua, Kaplan UCAT book. There's loads of different publishers out there. I'm not going to tell you what's my favorites or anything. We just can't really, and we, as Blueprint, we try not to get into that discussion. So do have a look at, if you generally look at certainly 3 different sources, you'll get a good feel for the UCAT questions. But like somebody said before, practice makes perfect. Make sure you're looking at a good range of questions from each source. You need to look at a good I'd say 1,500 questions, if not more, so that by the end of it, you've covered, quite close to 5,000 questions and more. Don't do any less than that. So you've got a good feel for volume. Whilst you do that, what happens is you get used to question styles, developing your strategies. The strategy bit, you might find, you could probably do it yourself. Other people attend courses like the ones we do, and we kind of talk about, and I'm going to give you a feel for some of that in a bit. But, it's important to understand how these questions need to be answered, because you don't have much time. It has to be quick, you have to be accurate, you have to get that high score. So you need to get into it with plenty of time. The UCAT site gives you lots of advice, so please do visit the UCAT official site. But what they don't do is they don't go into strategies and detail. All right, they'll give you examples of questions, Is UCAT negatively marked? No, I've put that down here, Hassan. No, they don't negatively mark, which is important because I want you guys to answer every question. Do not leave any blanks, yeah? Don't, if you don't understand the question, at least use the elimination theory, which is, if there's 4 possible answers, eliminate the 2 that is least likely to be the answer, so that you're debating over 2, and don't reminisce too much, okay? Go for it, put an answer in, move on. If you want to, if you're not sure, just flag it so that you can come back. There's a flag and review option, so you can come back. But make sure you come back, answer, and do not leave that room, without putting an answer in each. Because again, statistics says that if you guess the ones that you flag and review, you might have a 50% chance of getting them right. In fact, it's around about 50% people get it right just by guessing. So don't waste any answers. Do you answer then flag and review? No, flag and review is just when you don't want to answer there and then. You just flag it basically, and then you come back and answer, Joyce. That's what I meant. So you don't want to leave any blanks. Do not leave anything empty. Shall we have a look at a few sections just to give you an idea? I'm conscious, obviously, it's only an hour thing. When I do the day course, it's a good 6 hours, sorry, course. So everything is very, very detailed, and we go through every single section in detail. But I'm going to do an overview of all the sections today. Do you want to do that? Would you be interested? Are you guys interested to have a look at the individual sections? Yeah, let's have a look. I think it will give you a really good idea, and you can have a go yourself on doing these revision plans and studying. It might be enough for some of you guys. You might not need to attend another course. So have a look at some of these sections. Let's look at decision making. Sorry, Imran?
The full day course is 7 hours.
Oh, 7 hours, sorry.
And at least another 5-6 hours of video recordings on top. So it's very, very intensive. Okay.
Yeah, so I guess what we're trying to do is give overview, an idea of things today. Let's look at the first section that I want to touch on. And that is, Imran, decision making. Decision making. What's decision making about? Does anybody have an idea? Any thoughts? What's that section about? Making decisions. Yeah, absolutely, Rishad, right? Yeah, it says, well, it's on the tin. Good, excellent. There you go. Simple as that. Perfect. Yeah, so you see, decision making, guys, it's all about logical reasoning. Okay, we'll use logics to solve problems. Doctors do that all the time. Dentists do that all the time. It's about decision making, right? You're going into a very important career. You guys are at the forefront of leadership, teams, decision making, and you're going to be doing it on pace. Okay, you're going to be doing it on a regular basis every day. It's the nature of the beast. It's an active profession, medicine and dentistry. So it's no surprise that medical schools, dental schools want to test this ability. Okay, there's crossover. You find there'll be crossover with other sections. So, for example, decision making. I find there's a big crossover between decision making questions, verbal reasoning, and quantitative reasoning questions as well. But you see, again, it's a skill that I find. You can't just say, well, I'm pretty all right with decision making. I'm a pretty decisive person. That's not good enough as far as I'm concerned. It is a skill. You have to develop it. You have to learn and improve in how you do things at UCAT. Otherwise, leaving it too much to chance. As I said to you before, this is what we're doing. Doctors, when I mean doctors, dentists are doctors as well. So, we make difficult decisions all the time. Quite often we're dealing with complex things, complex problems, we're problem solving as well. Look, COVID has been a classic one, all right? If you ask me what do I know about coronavirus 2 years ago, I'll be honest with you, I'd say to you, well, I know it's a virus, but, and I've heard a bit about the SARS and the MERS, and they're a very similar thing, but I wouldn't have known any more than that, guys. But I bet you, if I ask you now the same question, you guys will know so much about coronavirus. So you learn. People like me and Imran, we've had to learn about COVID on the job. The virology, the immunology side of it, the actual physiology of things, how the virology varies with other viruses and so forth. Pandemics, managing situation. I remember I was planning for swine flu and managing that situation about 10 years ago in my practice, but it was nowhere near the beast that this coronavirus is and what it's demanded of us at work. It's a totally different experience. And we've had to make some tough decisions in that time, haven't we, Imran, in terms of how we work with patients, how we treat people, and so forth. So that's why you need to be good at decision making. What kind of questions do you come across in decision making then? So Sanjana says you're given a scenario and you choose the best option. Correct, she's right. She's right. What categories of questions can you come across in decision making? Has anybody had logical? Good, Hafsa, well done. You've done some reading, haven't you? Looks like you've started your revision plan already, haven't you? Eh? Yes, that's another section, Daniel, situational judgment. Although I think what you're probably leading to is some questions are like situational judgment. Is that what you mean? Is that you'd be right if you said that? So yeah, the Venn diagrams, yep, absolutely correct. So if you look at decision making, some authors, depends on what books and sources you go to, I find you can actually split it up into 6 different categories. Syllogism, as you can see, Hafsa, logical puzzles, assumptions, probabilities, Venn diagrams, as Hasmi mentions, and data interpretation, okay, which crosses over with quantitative quite a bit, all right? So there's 6 different types of questions, I think. If you look at one particular, let's do a deep dive a bit, yeah? Let's do a bit of a deep dive in looking at logical puzzles. They tend to be, these kind of 3-step sequencing, placing things in order, spatial reasoning, mentally arranging objects, could be like grid, rows, columns, matching, linking people or things with other things, that's the kind of thing you'll see with logical puzzles. Shall we have, I have to mention syllogism, shall we have a look at an example of this question in terms of matching? Shall we have a look? You guys want to have a go? India says yes, so we will. Okay, India says yes, so let's do it. Have a look at this. All right, so a group of 5 friends live on the same road in a row of houses running parallel to the road. Okay, so it's just a row of houses. Yeah, can you imagine that? These are the kind of things you can the more you do these questions, you'll start to do things right now. I guess some of you will be looking for pen and paper. All right, so when you do UCAT, they will give you like a sheet of paper, like a laminated or a bit like that, on which you can write using a marker. So use that. It's not there for decoration, it's to use. So draw that 5, like a row with made up of 5 blocks, all right, and do it very quickly so you can see. All right, so it says first thing is Abdul lives furthest from Matthew. So where would Matthew be? Is that house number 1, 2, 3, or 4? So you guys are giving me the, or 5, sorry. Yeah, you're right. So, so you can fill that box in. Samantha lives 2 houses down from Abdul. So which house is Samantha in? 3. Yeah, perfect. So Dawood lives next to Matthew. So which house is Dawood in then? 4. Excellent. So you can work it out, you see. So the more you do these things, so which of the following is true? Samantha lives equidistant from Abdul and Matthew. Yes, yes. True, true. Yeah. Okay. What about B? 5 live in a small village. Can you make that conclusion? It might be. But yeah, good, excellent. You can't tell, or it's no. So that it can't say. You certainly can't say it's true, can you? Exactly. You're absolutely right, Kezia. The Preeti lives next to Abdul. Is that true? Yeah, you just don't know exactly. Absolutely. Well done, guys. Preeti and Dawood are neighbors. You're not sure. You can't tell. Exactly. Good. So you can tell. The answer is obviously, as you've all identified, it's A. So that's the kind of sequencing type of question. That's what they are like, So it's about getting your mindset right, okay, and being used to these types of questions so you're not surprised on the day. And believe me, the more you do, the quicker you'll get at these. And time is of the essence, guys, because typically in decision making, do you know how long you have per question like that? Have you done the maths? I've got, again, on the actual website, I've done you're right, Rishad, it's about half a minute, yeah. It's less, yeah, it's half a minute, guys. So you have to be really quick. It's not, we've spent probably a good few minutes doing this, but you have to be really quick. You need to train your mind to do that, yeah. So I hope that helps in giving you ideas. So just a few tips, guys. There's no trick questions in these questions. Don't look for a trick. It's what it says on the tee. It's logical, all right? So it's not being tricky puzzles, it's logical puzzles. It's what in front of you. They're not trying to give you any trick questions here. Just use logic, don't suspect. Just go with what you can see. Be careful as well, with wording. I always kind of say things like might or may. These aren't definite statements, okay? So these things catch people out because they've not interpreted it in the right way, and therefore they go to the wrong conclusions. Elimination, if you remember previous question, you could have eliminated some. Once you've done your sequence, you could have just eliminated and got to the right answer. And sometimes that might be an easy thing to do. It's, the rules thing about as well. The rules there, they're next to each other. It's a street. It's no different. It's not a round. It's not a cul-de-sac or anything like that. The whiteboard thing, the paper thing I told you about before, use it, all right? Some of you might be able to, did some of you do that all in the head, or did you have to kind of scribble a bit like I have to do? Were some of you able to do it in your head without writing anything down? So interesting how the ladies are answering that question. Have you noticed that, Imran? Yeah. So that is no surprise to me. The blokes, the chaps, okay, if you do a bit of reading about how blokes think, we're very we want to see things, we want to write things, we want to draw pictures, we're very pictorial, we're very, we think in a certain way, whereas the ladies, they tend to work things out a lot more cerebrally, and they're quite quick at that as well. So, I'm not saying that, women are any better or than whatever. We just have, different skill sets, men and women. So quite often you find the boys are actually using these pen and the pads a lot more than the ladies who sit this test. So it's no surprise at all the way you guys answered that question. So work to your strength. That's what I'm getting at. Okay. If you ladies can do it in your head, well, why would you want to write it? Fair dues. Do it. Okay. But the boys, if you need to use, like I had to, even I was scribbling, right? Do it. Work to your strength, right? It's not about this or that. Work to your strengths. And of course, guys, practice. Practice is the important thing to do. Let's move sections, right? Let's have a quick look at situational judgment. What's all that about? I know this is the bit that some people think is not too important, but but it's very important. What do you think? What situational judgment measuring? Scenario, you're right, Ella, scenario is given, yeah, correct. What is most appropriate? Yeah, moral, yeah, excellent, Hafsa, excellent. Alina, excellent. You guys have been doing, I think you're a self-selected group. You've got up early this morning, you know a lot of answers. This is really good. I'm enjoying this course, I really am. Excellent, brilliant. So you've done your homework already, you lot. So you see, situational judgment, again, it's a very, very important skill that you need to develop, have as a medic and a dentist, right? Because it's about those ethical kind of, you know, dimensions that we have to think within. Integrity, all right? Do you know what integrity means? Just to clarify what it means here, it's not about how strong you are, it's more about, what's it more about? Any thoughts? Honesty, good, Sophia, well done. It's about probity. That's the posh word for it. It's, you know, no, persistence is resilience, Ella. You know, the fourth point, it's more about resilience, that. So you're right there. Honesty, excellent. Working with morals. Perspective taking according to what's right and what's wrong. Adaptability, adapting to difficult situations, you know, like COVID is a classic one. Okay, we've all had to adapt, remote working, the way we've had to kind of stratify the patients, working with the more so-called weaker patients first, or the vulnerable patients first, the shielded and so forth. Vaccination's a classic example, how we've had to, the JCVI in the UK had to say, right, let's do the over 80s first, then the over 70s and so forth, until now we're doing the, we're starting to do the under 50s now in the UK. So again, these are things that university will want to check on you and say, like, what's your compass like in this kind of an area? All right. You know, what's it like? Is the lesson recorded and uploaded on YouTube? I'll let Imran answer that when he can.
Yes. Yeah, we are recording this session. I'll send you an email after the course over the next day or two, and you can watch again if you wish to.
So guys, I'm just conscious I talk too much, don't I? I'll try and speed up. Read these, I mean, for our Australian students, we've put their medical board publication there, but for our UK students, the GMC, this is on their website, the Good Medical Practice Documents. For the dentists, same, if you go to the GDC website, there's the standards, the dental standards. It's the same thing, but just written slightly differently, slightly different semantics, but it's essentially the two sides of the same paper, really. So make sure you go and read this document well, because most of our code of conduct and ethics is based around these important kind of principles. As you got, some of you said earlier on, the type of questions you see is like, you know, appropriateness, all right? You know, so you get these kind of options, don't you? The, you know, is something a very appropriate thing to do? Is something appropriate? Is something inappropriate? Or is it a very inappropriate thing to do? All right. So that's how you look at these kind of questions. I'll give you some examples in a bit. Tips I would give you is that the knowledge base, I don't think, personally, my opinion, people might vary, is that you need good knowledge base. That's why I've talked to you about the documents, good medical practice, and the standards. And, you know, if you can, if you've got some time, do some reading, further reading around it. So for example, the GMP talks a lot about good medical practice document, talks a lot about morals and ethics and so forth. Well, how about a deep dive piece of reading on medical ethics? Do you see what I mean? How about a bit of a deep dive on prioritizing tasks? How do you do that? How do you navigate through difficult situations? Try and, you know, do a bit of reading on that. I'm not taking much, but this bit of desktop research online. You don't even have to buy the books, really. It's all there. British Medical Association has got lots of information on the website about medical ethics. So there's no point paying for that stuff, really. Again, you need to be slick, so we can't spend too much time, because that's how things are in the actual test. And also, never assume, okay? Base it on what's in front of you, what the question is, put it in front of you. Don't assume, all right? Don't kind of go off at a tangent, all right? So let's have a look at question. Let's have a look. So here we have a question which says, you're a medical student based in accident and emergency. One of your fellow students comes in late, smelling of alcohol. How appropriate are the following actions as the next step? Okay, ask your fellow student to go to the doctor's mess. All right, so you're a medical student, your friends come in, he's clearly drunk, smelling of alcohol. You're going to ask him to go to the doctor's mess. What do you think? If you look on the right side, I've given you the options. A very appropriate thing to do, an appropriate but not ideal, inappropriate but not awful, a very inappropriate thing to do. So what would you say? Option 3? Doctor's mess, sorry, I assume you guys might know. It's where people go and have a rest. Doctors go and have a rest, and they just go and sit down, and you can watch a bit of TV and have a bit to eat and relax there. Can you see the opinions are quite variable? They're quite variable. Yeah. Yeah. You see, and overall, I think there's a good number of you that have actually selected the right answer. Quite a few of you have said 3, some of you had said 1. I don't think any of you said 4, but really the correct answer is actually number 2, appropriate but not ideal. It's appropriate. The reason why you're probably saying that is you need to get him away from that clinical environment. He's not safe to himself. He's not safe to anyone else. He's not, if you say, look, go home, is he in a fit state to go home? Yeah. Or, or is he too unwell and too drunk to go home? So a very safe disposal of the situation is, look, just go home, go to the doctor's mess and just relax a bit, take your time, maybe nod off for a bit or something. And it can be dealt with later. Right now, he's in no fit state to be in the clinical environment. Would you agree? Yeah. So try not to overthink it, and think about each stem independent. Don't look at the other 3. Can you see? I didn't look at the other stems, did I? The next one, inform the consultant. Look at these independently. All right. Do not look at all of them and think, all right, I need a 1 and I need a 2, I need a 3. No, it could be all 1s. It could be all 2s. All right. So don't think about them together. Inform the consultant about what you have noticed. So now it's saying you're going to go and tell the consultant about your colleague. What would you do? Some say 1. Alexis says 1. Yeah, there's a lot of 1s, lot of 1s, lot of 1s, lot of 1s, lot of 1s. Interesting. Okay, so I would, you see, here it's not told you that it's a persistent problem. Here it's not told you that it's the guy's put anybody at danger, all right? So you don't take it to that level. The guy is drunk, you just want to get him away in a safe place, right? So the actual answer there is actually number 2, believe it or not, in that, look, you can tell the consultant, because those of you who said 1, you're thinking, right, it's the right thing to do. I need to tell my superior about this, Well, actually, that's probably what puts it into the appropriate category, but it's not very appropriate. Just let him go and sober up. He's not caused anyone any harm, and you need to find out what's happened here. Is it a regular problem? It doesn't say a persistent offender here, does it? All right. So we can go on and on and on, giving you my reasons as to why the answer is actually, yeah, it's appropriate. Somebody needs to know. It's not ideal in that, look, actually, the person themselves can sort it out. Okay, they themselves could have potentially spoke to the seniors or said, look, I'm not feeling so well, unfortunately, something went, look, I've had colleagues who've, they've had a late night or whatever, they've had 1 too many, it happens. But what you do is you make sure you're not putting patients in danger and you safeguard that person, all right? But it's not necessarily a punishable offense as such. It's not saying it's a regular offense here, okay? Do you get that? Can you see? The more you practice, you start to think like this in a clinical environment. It's difficult when you're still at college, still at school, to completely think, it's a bit unfair, I find as well, situation judgment, because it wants you to have that kind of almost like a clinical thinking. I just have to make sure I'm not running over time, but I am doing, sorry about that. What about number 3? Tell your fellow student not to see patients today. What's that? Excellent. Excellent. Number 1. Brilliant. I'll move on. That's easy, that. Next, ignore what you have seen as you are both just observing today. What do you think? For easy, yeah? Those are easy. If it's blatantly obvious, it's very easy. Just do it. Don't think about it, okay? And go home with your fellow student. What do you think? A lot of 3s. So, you know, so consultant comes, you know, now, you know, your friend is absent and you are also absent. Is that appropriate? So again, think logically here. You're not going to go absent just because your friend is drunk. You know, he needs help. He needs to do whatever you need to do to sort him out. But you don't need to, become an absentee as well. There's no need for you to disappear. So no, it's not appropriate at all for you to disappear. Yeah, get him a taxi, find other ways to deal with the situation. But you don't need to go truant as well. Yeah. Okay, good, excellent. I'm going to just quickly touch on this, right? Situation judgment, it tends to touch on things like, you know, these are classic scenarios. You know, you might find scenarios that talk about cheating in exams, signing in for someone else, for example. I've seen all these scenarios, leaking exam papers, copying someone's work, forging signatures, driving whilst reading. So these are the kind of scenarios I've come across a lot, and you'll see them as well. It's very much testing your ethics, really, how, you know, where you are in a moral compass, okay? I'm going to skip the next question because I'm sorry about this. Time is just, and I talk too much. I always think 1 hour is not enough to give an overview of this, but then Imran says we haven't got enough time. We've got another 3 courses today. Guys, this is another dimension you need to think about, especially you guys, you know, you young people coming into medicine. For you, medicine's kind of gone into another world as well. Social media, it's a big thing. It affects me and Imran in work these days, but I think it will affect you guys more because people are living so much more on the social media platform and the virtual world, and a lot of medicine and dentistry is going remote as well, and so much information is being shared in the virtual world. So I think it's more important as you know, in the future than it is even at now. So you see, the things to remember is online, the interaction, it involves conversation, it involves sharing content, networking, and so forth. So it's no different what you do on Facebook and YouTube and whatever platform. It's no different to the real world. So same ethics apply. And the GMC has actually published lots and lots of information there. So make sure when you visit that GMC site to get your GMP document and read it, go onto the social media thing. All right, it's got a dedicated set of pages, read about it and understand. For those people who are joining from Australia, you know, the medical board there is massive about it because it's a big country there and people, you know, are thousands of miles apart, and you know, so it's probably quite even more important over there. So use of remote medicine, you know, and you need to be aware of how you engage with people on social media and so forth. And these kind of questions are coming up more and more on situation judgment questions. Let's look at another section, abstract reasoning. Let's move on. What's the abstract reasoning about? What does that section look at? Anybody know? Pattern shapes. Good, excellent. That's an easy one. Yeah, so abstract is all about pattern recognition. All right. So you need to learn, you know, common things about how these questions work. You need to look at how to identify quickly, how to, you know, make sure you're good at this section. This is a section where we find people drop. If you're not good at abstract, you'll drop points easily. So this is a very, very important section to familiarize yourself with Why is there? Why do you have to be good at this section? Why? Yeah, why do we have abstract? Does anybody know, or is it just we're just having a bit of fun with you? Spatial awareness. Yeah, absolutely. Patterns and symptoms. Good, Idris. That's a very, very good answer. You see, the abstract is actually probably one, in my opinion, one of the most important skill you can have as a doctor and a dentist. We recognize patterns. We look at symptoms. We put things together, and you know, a lot of your thinking is very much abstract. You know, it's looking at patterns and so forth. So they're using shapes and, you know, letters and things to look at this as a skill, but, you know, in real life, you don't do that. You look at symptoms and things you see, you know, investigation results, so on and such forth. Okay, you know, quite often when you look at these questions, you don't see patterns that easily. But you know what? The more you do these, actually, you get really good at these questions. All right, you find patterns really well. You can, you know, when you strategize, you start to see things very well. And I don't know, it's almost like having like blurry binoculars or something. The more you do, your focus improves with these questions. And once you get good at abstract, actually, you retain that very well. Abstract tend to fit into 4 different categories. The commonest one you find is type 4. Imran, are these slides available online just to...
The slides aren't, but a copy of the video will be.
Okay, brilliant. Super.
So watch the video and pause and look at the slides.
Awesome, excellent. Thanks, mate. So yeah, guys, you can delve on the slides in depth later, but type 4 is by far your common type question, you know, in terms of fitting things into sets, into whether it fits into one set or another. Let's look at a typical example. What do you think of this question here? So look at the actual tile on the left, okay, where it says DUC. Which set do you think it fits into, set A or set B? Or does it not fit into either? What do you think? Does anybody know? Can you see any patterns? Some are saying B. Why are you saying B? Some are saying set A, neither. Quite a few are saying neither. So when you say neither, why neither? Anybody? Who's good at typing? Quick type? Because the lowest letter. No. No. So those of you that said neither, it is the right answer, but why? No, see, you're all giving me reasons, but these aren't universal reasons. If you look at, do they apply to every box? So if you look at set A, you need to say, right, what's the principle there that happens in every tile? And a very similar thing. Good, excellent, Nicola. That's the answer I was looking for. They're all curved letters. So if you look at D, that's got a curve in it. U's got a curve. C's got a curve. All right. If you look at set A, you look at A, that doesn't have a curve. B does. J does. If you look at the next tile, C has a curve. U has a curve. H doesn't. All right. So one letter will not have a curve, and the other 2 have got curves. Can you see that in set A, guys? Whereas if you look at in set B, yeah, only one letter has a curve, the other 2 has right angles, or like, you know, non-curves, if you like. So if you look at, yeah, can you see only one letter will have a curve? So that's the, you know, the distinction between the 2. One has 2 curved, the other has 1. One has, you know, 2 straight, the other has 1 straight. Yeah.
Can you see
that? Well, exactly, Kasim. This is exactly what happens. You get better at these, and you will trust me, Kasim. The more you do these, the more you practice, you'll get damn good at these.
Can I just mention, Abdul, you know, with this section, there are certain rules that they use. There's certain ways that they set these questions. And one of the rules is when you see letters, don't look at them as A, B, C, D, E, F, G, yeah, or words. Sometimes it's an actual word. You've got to look at them as curves, number of corners, You know, these are all kind of rules that we teach on our day course, and there's lots and lots and lots of them, but they use the same ones again and again. So one of the tricks to getting hold of this section is to learn all the rules. And then once you know the rules, if you see something like this again, you'll think, well, actually, I need to, it's not going to be ABJ. It's going to be how many corners is there on A, how many curves is there on B, you know, so you need to know the rules for these things.
Okay, moving on quickly. I know we're over time. Can I carry on for a few minutes, Imran? Is that okay?
Yes, yeah.
A few minutes. Quantitative reasoning, guys. What's quantitative reasoning about? I've put it on, actually. I've just not got enough time. So it's maths, Afsa. You're absolutely correct. I've put a list there of things that they look at. Why is it? Why are we being asked to look at these things and, you know, have a decent ability in quantitative reasoning? What's so important as doctors and dentists? So you're spot on, Kasim. Drug prescriptions, lots of stats. You know, I mean, again, look at COVID as an example. There's been research papers, there's been publications, there's been guidelines, and we've had to interpret and apply those to clinical practice. And you can't do that unless you're very good at doing calculations, following guidelines, protocols, interpreting them, doing critical analysis of publications, and so forth. So that's why universities are kind of looking and thinking, look, how good are you at that? Are you okay? You know, can you manage? So you see, that's what it's all about. Those of you that don't do maths for A-levels, don't worry too much, because actually the level of maths involved, skills involved, is at GCSE level or equivalent in Scotland and other places in the world. So don't worry too much. It's not difficult, the actual about knowledge that you require. If you want to, my tip would be, prior to UCAT, mental maths, some of your GCSE maths, perhaps get your revision book out and do a quick bit of revision for a few days on basic maths. That might be a useful exercise to do. Whenever you do these sections, try and use an online calculator on your laptop rather than a physical calculator, because in the actual day of the test, you won't be given a physical calculator. You'll be expected to use this Texas thing on the actual the test site. So you got to be kind of familiar with using an online calculator, and of course things like memory functions and so forth, which you might need for some answers. So get used to that. Okay. Again, the type of questions you tend to come across is all of these things. Diagrams, graphs, pure text, and so forth. So get used to these type of questions. I'm not covering a particular question here. I'm just going to move on to the next section, which is verbal reasoning. What's that about? Do you have any idea what the verbal reasoning questions are about? Comprehension. Yeah, Joyce, you're right. It is a type of comprehension. You know, it's a type of, it's being able to read and think, read and interpret, read and conclude. Yeah, perfect. That's good enough. But it's like comprehension with a twist, because there's a kind of a scientific way of thinking with these type of questions, right? So you're given the information as text, as passage, and you're trying to, make assumptions, not assumptions, but conclusions from that. Usually, these type of questions, there's no need to apply previous knowledge. It's more about applying what's in front of you and making sure you come to the right conclusion. Why do you think they want to test that? Again, is it just because they want to, or why do you think? What's the why? Why are they important? Why are these questions important? Well, I'll give you the answer. You see, as clinicians, you need to have good you need to be able to understand. Yeah, absolutely, Sammy. Yeah, spot on. You need to have good verbal reasoning skills. You need to understand complex information. You need to be able to communicate this to your patients. You need to be able to, interpret and understand after reading a research article, for example. You need to apply it to your own, department or your own practice setting. You need to be able to be critical about what's published. So you don't just, you're not just fed scientific information from journals and so forth without evaluating and doing a critical judgment on that paper, because there's lots of weak publications out there as well. Need taking a lot. Yeah, absolutely, Mohammed. You're absolutely correct. And you need to come to the right conclusion. So that's what really this section's about. Typically, questions fall into two types: the critical reasoning skills questions and the logical order questions. So typically, I'd say two types of questions you're coming here. Some of you mentioned true, false. Absolutely. True meaning, yeah, it concurs with the passage. False, it contradicts. It's the can't tell ones that are a bit more confusing, and that's where you need to be able to practice questions like this. So have a look at this. Uber's grown significantly since its inception in 2009. These days, a growing number of people are using Uber to travel in and around cities of the UK. Are the following statements true, false, or can't tell? So look at number one. Uber was founded in 2009. True or false? Or can't tell? True, true, true. Good, excellent. Yeah. Uber is a popular taxiing firm in the UK. What do you think? Popular, can't tell. Can't tell. Okay. So actually, believe it or not, this is actually true. This particular answer is true because it says it's grown significantly. A growing number of people are using. So the implications are that it's a significant venture, and people are using it a lot in the UK. So it's actually true. What about the next thing? Uber is a cruise ship company. False, can't tell, false. Can't tell, can't tell. Yeah, so some people, again, fall into the trap. They think UK, well, we don't have cruise ships between cities or around it as much. It's mainly motorways, roads and rail. So yeah, it must be false, this. It's actually can't tell. You're absolutely right. And think about the Australian students who might not know the UK well. So think about it. Like, don't use prior knowledge, remember, in these questions. So you're absolutely correct. Okay. So guys, I hope this kind of gives you an idea of these type of questions. As I say, in the day course that we do, we do a lot more in-depth discussions and go into all these sections and cover a few questions and go in depth. I hope you've had a good idea of what UCAT is and will be about. Make sure, like I said to you, the GMP documents, ethics and so forth, read about these things, work hard on types and strategy with regards to, these sections. To go to the UCAT website and look at the information they give you. Make sure you aim for 2,800 plus. I'm not just saying that. I'm not just saying that with good practice. These are just a few I've had from this last year. The students that we've worked with, who've, the universities that they applied to, it really does pay off to have the right score. Make sure you work hard. So we used to do them like that before. Obviously, these are like, it almost feels like a million years ago, this Imran. We used to do the day courses like live, but obviously you can't do it at the moment. It's all remote. The online course, I've got videos like this where I cover all these sections in depth. So that's quite a useful thing to do. Any questions? I mean, I'll be first to say, guys, you don't, if you can, if you apply yourself, it's like anything. Do you need to go to school to do A-levels? You can theoretically say you don't. It's how hard you work, okay? How to improve readings, speed reading. So that's, again, it's something I talk about quite a lot, guys. When I do the verbal reasoning section in that speed reading, there are techniques you can do. I mean, for a start, I'll tell you now, read more on a daily basis. Just read more. All right. Even if you're a bad reader like myself, I don't like reading much. Just practice reading. And then the next step is how to do, spatial reading, which is, so if you look at a paragraph, you take keywords out and try and come to a conclusion. You'll find actually 9 out of 10 times you come to the right conclusions. Do we do a webinar on Bmat? No, we don't, Samia. Of course, we don't. Well, there is a section, isn't there, Imran, on the online course, the UCAT. We just put it in there because with Bmat, we find actually the UCAT, like I said before, covers most of section 1. Section 2, look, it's not rocket science. It's just doing lots of past questions, past papers, and something like CGP, multi-science revision books. And section 3, look, I can't sit down and teach you how to write essays. Just do some essays, practice essay writing, basic principles.
We have included tutorials for section 3. Section 1 is very similar to UCAT. So if you study for the UCAT, you'll be all right at section 1. Section 2 is basically science, basically. And we can give you a list of topics that you need to kind of study in depth. The thing with section 2 on the Bmat is a lot of students miss certain topics out, and it only takes a few marks to differentiate between you. Section 3, yes, there are skills and methods of the for the essay writing. So we've got one of our teachers from our local grammar school, a critical thinking A-level teacher, to record some tutorials, and we give them away to students that come on our day course, because we don't feel you need an extra course just for the Bmat if you've already gone on a UCAT course. As I say, I'll send you an email after the course with all the details and all the dates of the day course. If you are signing in from Australia and New Zealand and you fancy us doing a course in your time zone, again, just send us an email that you're interested in that, and we can modify some of the webinar course times to fit in with your time zone.
Brilliant, guys. We've got another course in there. Is anybody coming to our work experience course later this morning? I'd say is, yeah, quite a few of you. Good, excellent. Well, those of you that come later on, we'll see you later. We've got to go and prepare for the next course, now the next UCAT course. So yeah, thank you for joining us, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's session. Like I say, if you want to read our blogs, some of the download stuff, then on the website, go and have a look, and you can get, have a look at it. If you have specific questions, by all means, email us on support@bluepeanut.co.uk, and we'll be able to answer those, hopefully. Look after yourselves. Have a great morning. Take care. Goodbye.